Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Reputation Today PrimeTime with corporate communication leaders. This edition of RT PrimeTime is presented in association with Kaizen, a dynamic communications firm. Reputation Today announced its list of 30 top corporate communication teams earlier this week on Monday, 16th of August, and today's panelists are leaders of some of the winning teams. Today's session with these leaders will lay focus on what makes top corporate communication teams stand out. A warm welcome to all our panelists and the 160 plus registered participants who have logged in using the platform specially created by VirtueBlitz. This session is also being streamed live on our YouTube channel at bit.ly RT on YT. So if you're facing any problems connecting onto the platform, you can always switch to YouTube, but without the option of asking any questions. For those who are attending using this platform, please feel free to ask questions using the Q&A box, and the moderator will try to pick as many as he can in the last 15 minutes. Before I introduce our panelists, let me remind you that the hashtag for today is RTPrimeTime. Please tweet using the hashtag RTPrimeTime, and don't forget to tag our partner at Kaizen.com along with Rep Today Mag. I would now like to introduce and welcome our panelists for today. Nandini Chatterjee, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at PwC India. Naresh Kumar, Senior General Manager for Corporate Communications at PowerGrid. Shivanjali Singh, Head of Corporate Communications at Vodafone Idea Limited. And Varghese Thomas, Vice President and Global Head of Corporate Communications at TVS Motor Company. And moderating the discussion today is Vineet Handa, Founder and CEO of Kaizen. Over to you, Vineet, now to take this discussion ahead.
Thanks, Anubhuti. Thanks for the warm welcome. Thanks for putting up this very interesting and a strong panel for us. Nandini, Naresh, Shivanjali, Varghese, a very warm welcome and a big congratulations to you on getting into this very prestigious list. And of course, all 30 winners. We at Kaizen are, it's actually a very proud moment. Last 4 years, we have been partnered with them, with Reputation Today, and these celebrations are so important for us as an industry. Each one of us bring a lot of value to the whole industry and the best practices, and I think that's what we are celebrating today in this panel. So, sudden hygiene, because it's live, we have lots to discuss. We'll try to keep it simple, 2-3 minutes answers, and first I'll go with a common question to all, and then probably we can do individual questions, and at last, of course, for 15 minutes for Q&A with the attendees here. So great. So my first question actually for today is, because you all four, and I can see Varghese dropping out, and we'll wait for Varghese. But meanwhile, we will start with Nareshji. And Nareshji, since you are in the list, and you also one of the longest serving Corpcom person in India, 28 years with PowerGrid, and that's NTPC PowerGrid. That's so amazing. We are really privileged to have you here. Just wanted to understand that what is it what you do differently, and which sort of made you a part of this list, and if you can share that with us, that would be great.
Thank you very much, Anubhuti, and thank you very much, Vineet, for your warm welcome. Looking forward to an exciting sessions. Hello and very good evening to fellow panelists and the wide audience jointly virtually. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this elite panel under the platform of Reputation Today. I have not been keeping well lately, so pardon me for any hindrances. Vinay, the top corporate communication teams are indispensable to any organization. They are recognized as invaluable to the company as they drive measurable business results and foster relationship for long-term business value They undertake a truly mission critical functions built on the three qualities that are eyes for the target audience, behavioral decisions making, and insight based evaluations. Regardless of how today the corporate communication departments are structured, there are teams that stand out as the most effective in today's changing environment. I for the target audience means that the team has aligned opinion and behavior desired among stakeholders and are engaging with them in the way they want to be engaged by the brand. It means people find desired content and engagement seamlessly, consistently, and are then more likely to advocate and help you promote key messages. If you look at behavioral decision making, do you assess the changing attitude of key stakeholder segments and how they want to be engaged? We have to identify the social structures and fabric of the ecosystems and then make the communication plan which will help us get to the right people with the right word, right visual, and right creation and achieve communication objective. In the age of transparency and activisms, communications are operations must break down silos to protect the corporations. On the third aspect, which I think the insight based evaluation, we must gather real time insights and use the information to evolve and keep the company relevant by ensuring mutually valuable relationship. The the world is moving fast, so your job is to help your company stay ahead of reputational shifts and needs. Such teams have their own identities, which makes them stand out from the competition. Their mission, vision, value statement resonate in all communication. It is with the clarity of thought that these teams are able to deliver on all challenges. The teams never stop its learning process and continues improves upon the present state. Learning is a continuous
Mhm.
process.
Definitely.
We must also understand that building an effective corporation communication team does not happen overnight, but you can start the journey with the points I have shared with you.
Thank you, Naresh. What a interesting insights. Right from you're talking about transparency and activism and the real time insights. I think some interesting thoughts coming out from one of the longest serving PSU corporate communications person. And interesting is that these thoughts coming from the organization which also has grown with Naresh ji. Nice. Thanks, Nareshji. I would want to go to Nandini now. Nandini, what is it? What are the three things which you want to tell us, which makes all the difference? And again, Nandini, what 18 years now with PwC and counting and amazing. Just feel so privileged to have you here and talking to you on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Vineet. And I think I'm the one who's really privileged to be here on this panel with so many people who also spend a lot of time. But let me come straight to your question. I think there are lots of things that can be done, but let's focus on three things to start with and what has actually worked very well for us. I think first is investing. So we have been investing, keeping an eye on the future. So whether it is technology, whether it's processes, whether it's platforms, whether it's people, always trying to think what is it that we feel could be happening tomorrow, or what is it that we might be needing, or what is it that our company would be needing, and can we invest in it today? I think that is the most important thing. And to give you an example, I think about 15 years back, I thought that the way our organization is, we need to have designers. And we hired one designer. And today, the amount of things we do, you'll be surprised to hear, I have a team of around 15 odd designers. creative people working in house. And 5 6 years back, like most of you, we thought that videos is going to be the way to go, and we set up an in-house studio. So there is a full editing desk, there are content people, there is the entire work which is developing things for agility to respond fast. Not to say that we don't go outside, we do take help from outsiders also, but there is a lot that we do internally. So I think that is one main thing. Second thing, which again I'm sure is relevant to most of the people, is understanding business, to be aligned with business, to be relevant for business. If you're not relevant, you just cannot make an impact, and you are not going to grow and be, come up as a team. And third, and the most important thing, you say Copcom team. Who's the team? It's the people. So at the end of the day, if you can think about the future of the people in the team, enable them, empower them, help them to make an impact. If they make an impact as a team, you're going to make an impact. So I think these three things are what's worked for me: investment, being relevant, and the Copcom team members themselves growing.
Amazing. I think uh, we are the only business, and I keep saying about that, where the public is part of, and the relationship is part of our business, our bread and butter. And you really brought in a very important point is the people. I think future being technology ready, how the content is consumed. You, if you work around that, and also focus on people. I think it's the way you create the winning teams, and right there you're there. Congratulations once again, Nandini, and thanks for bringing those insights. So Shivanjali, it's such an interesting area, the whole telecom, the internet. Uh, 18 months, I believe. If this would have happened 20 years back, I think the India would have collapsed. Uh, Thanks to the technology, the internet, and also I know for sure these that also brings some challenges, but congratulations for being part of this list. You have a great long service with the brand. Can you please share your thoughts on what is it from your point of view, what you do differently, which has brought you to this list? Thank you.
Thank you, Vineet, and hello everybody. First of all, thank you for having me on this session. Great privilege and wonderful to be here amongst great panel and with everybody having spent so much time in their organizations. Naresh ji and Nandini, I think, very well articulated what the role of communications is, and how they are doing things differently. I'll probably, bring a different perspective, and from how we feel. And thanks for recognizing our efforts, Vineet. I'll tell you, in our organization, in our team, and how communications has been very, very important, especially in the last 18 months or so. And talking of doing things differently, in fact, I'd say that the year that has gone, we've completely reimagined the way we communicate, and the way we deliver our messages. For us, I think what has worked is our ability to collaborate and to co-create. I think that has really worked, especially for us, which is a large organization where we have our operations spread out across the country, and a brand that has to communicate to a billion plus population of the country. So I think therefore collaboration was very, very important for us from communications point of view. We have, in fact, in contrast to what Nandini talked about, we have a very small in-house team, and for us, communications is not a single person or a department's role. At the same time, we are the custodians of the brand. We have to manage and protect the reputation of the brand. So, keeping all these things in mind, at any given point of time, we are collaborating with internal stakeholders to pull out stories from probably the deepest corners of the country. When, for example, the lockdown happened, how were our network people enabling people, in small towns to, do their online studies for people to work from home. And in fact, a lot of time and investment went into getting those stories out, and then collaborating with external stakeholders, whether it is a PR agency, whether it is our content creators, whether it was our larger, digital ecosystem, our partners, the OTT providers who we work with, our industry associations. We used all these channels to then put out our messages, and of course, predominantly through the digital platforms to reach a much wider audience. I think that's one thing that has worked for us. In an organization like us where everybody is a communicator, everybody is a brand advocate, I think toolkits do help. Much has been talked about in the recent past about toolkits, but I can tell you it does help. It What it helps in doing is bringing consistency in your messaging and cohesiveness. I think that again works for a brand which is a large brand as ours. As comms team, I think we bind all our internal stakeholders messaging together to have one singular theme and narrative that then at an organization level we take forward to our external stakeholders or even to our employees and the larger ecosystem that we operate in. And whether it is financial media, B2B media, vernacular media, social media, we ensure that there is one common thread that cuts across all these, the stories that we put out through these platforms. Lastly, I think, what is very important is to, just be real and to keep it simple. I think that's a mantra that I follow, not just at work, but even in my personal life. And trust me, it does help. It helps in bringing instant connect with your audience. It helps in breaking ice, especially when for PR people and comms people, when your role is based on relationships. I think it does help you in building those long term relationships which help you, and especially at times when the chips are down. So I think these three things have worked for us, and this is how we've done things differently. I call it differently. I don't know. Maybe others also do it the same way, but that's how. Vineet, I think
Uh,
you're on mute.
no, I'm not. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So keeping it simple works every time. And I think that's the biggest differentiating factor. And I can see everybody nodding on that. And the other best part, what you spoke around, is the consistency in narratives and messaging. You do not differentiate the internal audience versus the external audience and the same messaging going out. I believe that's a great insight. And somewhere or the other, we as a communicator need to understand that there is no internal, no external. In today's connected world, we all are together. Coming back to Verghese, we've seen two backbones, power and internet. We've seen the big consulting who's cutting across all three, and now we have automobile. Verghese, can you please share your winning moments or your winning ideas, your winning key to your winning, please?
Thanks, Vineet, and a warm welcome to my fellow panelists and all the people participating in this discussion. So what do we do differently? Actually, Vineet, we don't do anything differently. Instead, we have a continuous focus on being better. We tend to follow tried, tested, and validated methods to ensure we communicate in an effective and timely manner. What we do is more important than how we do it. Therefore, defining the right goals for us becomes fundamental. Let me explain this in one sentence. If we have the wrong goals, it doesn't matter how differently we do things, they will only get worse. But there is one thing we are obsessed about as a team in TVS. We pay extra attention to keeping the team in sync with corporate developments and the news environment. And the reason we do this is because we believe that knowledge and the right perspectives are key to effective relationship management. I'm sure you will agree that both the external as well as internal environments for corporates have become very busy and fast moving. It is becoming difficult to keep pace, and we need ways to keep pace, right? Absorb the current environment and build perspectives around it. Outside of this, there are two things that are central to the way we function in TVS Motor. First, find innovative means to communicate. By innovation, I just don't mean smart and interesting. By innovation, I mean the ability to communicate precisely and in a timely manner without wasting any resources. Secondly, updating our skills and upskilling on a regular basis. This is done using various methods ranging from seeking mentorship, attending workshops, and learning new digital skills. In fact, in the last 12 months at TVS, we have organized at least a dozen communication workshops and webinars with various industry experts. And I'm sure my team would acknowledge the fact that it was a great learning for them. Fortunately, I have a team that is curious, creative, and hungry to learn. So that's it from my side, Vinit.
Verghese, a couple of things which really stuck to my mind is the timing and the speed. I think in today's time, that's what, even if when we really look at the other side of the table, which is media, online, I think timing and speed is everything. And I think you rightly picked that up. And the other two things which you really spoke about is being aware. And I think being aware is very well connected with the learning. Until unless you sort of develop yourself in a mode where you can understand the markets, you actually have that
Correct.
kind of a knowledge. So I believe, all the things which are coming out are really interesting for all the audience here. And thanks very much. And I'm sure what you're doing is really helping you. And that's the proof on the pudding is you're here as a winner or as a part of this list. Now I'll go sort of one by one, and I'll start with Naresh. Very interesting, Naresh. An organization of say 20,000 odd people, and you do not have an agency on record. What is it? What you do with your team? How you have built that team, a strong team which is managing, such a huge. You're a Navratna now, and so just help us understand that.
Uh, Vinay, as a PSU communicator, I feel that such a team is built on emotions, loyalty, self esteem, confidence, and various other parameters that uh, binds the team members with the company's ethos. The company personality is completely known and engraved in the mind and hearts of the team members. The character and culture of PSU job provides great sense of social security and pride, and they feel part of the large family. Therefore, attrition rate is very less as compared to other sectors. In the beginning of my uh, speech, I told you that I have been working in this organization since 20 years back, since 1993. So my bonding, my love is there. What is the reason behind of this? Means the team has to be capabilities driven, which strive to be sustainable, effective, and different. In this spirit, we have a beautiful example of our organization where we have connected and built our own brand as a team in the organization. We have developed our own department logo, our own identity with a tagline that says communication with passions, you know, and we have been using it in all our communications with internal stakeholders, uh, managements. It lends a distinct personality to our communications. As a team member, also value the placement of the logo. We have to keep ourselves updated and work in a tandem for realizing company and government visions. Because we being a PSUs, it is this stage of connecting and passion that brands needs to level up their teams so that they have motivated always. I will give you an example. My team always tried to learn from the industry's best practices. And during the pandemic, I feel proud I do, because I cannot explain so many case study which we are doing due to the positive time. But I can give a very small brief. Our during the pandemic, COVID pandemic, we organized a unique experience series with a private and public sector corporate communication teams. We judge our
Amazing.
we judge our work in comparison with the successful organization, and every week
Oh,
we debate upon various case studies on Friday, and we discuss each and everything along sitting with our teams, and we come out with the new takeaway, and what is our character of business and what is the other character of business of other companies, what is the
yeah.
different character of communication management.
Amazing, amazing. I think very interesting thoughts, Naresh ji.
Yeah,
And I can see this topic is so close to you. You're so passionate about. I could see your passion coming in, and I'm
yeah.
sure that is what percolating in the strong team which you have built in. Thanks, Naresh ji, for all the insights and bringing that passion. A passion, a leader with a passion, communicate with passion. I think that's where is Naresh ji's winning strategy comes out. Come back to Nandini. Nandini, now last 18 months have really changed the way we sort of communicate. Now, I just wanted to understand you yourself sort of an agency inside a corporate. I can you can I mean you can relate to it what I'm trying to bring in. How have you managed in last 18 months managing so many internal stakeholders? Probably you cut across all possible industries which are operating across India. And so if you can throw some light on that, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think Vineet, you very rightly said we are kind of like an agency which is in-house. We are catering to about 20 plus sectors, a number of competencies within the firm. So I have a team of about 40 odd people, and whether it's media relations or it is internal communication or research or creative or content or video production, or I mean, right from strategy to execution. But like I said initially, we have PR agencies, we have digital agencies, we have other agencies also working because the gamut of work that is to be done is so huge. So the internal team spend a lot of time working with business on the strategy part. But looking at the remote working and how to make it happen, I think the baseline was that how do you create an environment of trust among the team members and with the stakeholders, something that was a little easier when we were meeting in office premises, but digitally, how do you do that? So while, I mean, there are a number of things again, but I think two things that come top of mind for me is uh, the entire connect or the communication that we put in place. And like Varghese said, we do a lot of these knowledge sharing sessions within the team because we have all these competencies and we encourage fungibility within the team. We get experts externally to come in and talk to us. We also have simple unwinding sessions happening. We have alumni coming in. We have a whole lot of things we do so that people are connecting all through, or they connected all through the 18 months. I think that really helped. And the other thing that we have is a chief happiness officer. Maybe some of you also have something like that, but that's a person who's there for our team. The objective or the role of this person is to understand what are the anxieties, especially with the pandemic around, the team members, and some of them did catch the virus also, or the family members, they experienced it from near, to share, to understand the anxieties and get those who've gone through it to share. So somebody who's hearing the team members, hearing their anxiousness, understanding their learning requirement, their development requirement, and then bringing all the team leads together to see how we can make it happen, how we can connect, engage, and enable and empower them. I think that is one. And the second one, which I think most important, is the entire culture that you set for the team. A culture of being able to speak, a culture of that, if even though you might be sitting remotely at home, but you know that there is somebody who will hear, and I can speak my mind without any hesitation. So this culture we already had in place even before. We just kind of built on this culture and further, and did not let remote working impacted it in a way. I think this really helped us. And the last but small thing worth mentioning is that for a team like ours, what happens is that digital working, this remote working, actually is location agnostic. So it gave a lot of opportunities to the team members to work with teams across the world. You know, we are in 150 plus countries. So now we could reach out to them, and they are all there. All of them were happy to share experiences, ideas, you know, so that kind of location agnostic, collaborative working gave us a real fillip in these times. So we actually embraced the change and went on further with it.
So, opportunity in crisis, I think that's what I would probably read out of it. And then, if I really have to sum up what you really talked about is care and allowing people, giving opportunity for to people to speak, giving that freedom to speak. I think that's something very important. Care is always important, and especially when you're in a remote working where people are not able to speak, not able to see each other. I think it was more important, and great. Well done, Nandini.
Yeah, I
Coming to
think to care,
Shivanjali.
to the word
Sure.
care as C, I'll just add so communication, collaboration, and culture. I mean, those are the three things which actually work very well.
True. Three C's. Yeah. Completely. Great. Uh, so, Shivanjali, what Nandini spoke, of course, you have a large team under you. You are operating out of all 28, 29 states. You have people across. And pandemic has brought in a different kind of a pressure as well. How have you managed your teams? How have you managed your pressures during that time? How could you are a very self-motivated person, we all know, Shivanjali, but how have you managed the teams to keep up to your speed and also the speed of the company? Please share your insights.
Yeah, Vineet, I think pressure has been there with everybody, not just at work. Ask me, as a mother of two school-going boys, I think pressure was, all around with all of us. But I think, I'll start by telling a story, and, an age-old story, which probably all of us have heard, the story of a potato, egg, and, the coffee beans. And what happens, when you put each one of these into hot boiling water, very clearly what happens is you get more value, and as a consumer, as a user, you get more value from that item. And I think, talking of pressure, how I look at things is again, the opportunity that it gives. And what I look at is there an alternative narrative I can create which can work in my favor and can be again dovetailed into the larger narrative? Because as I earlier mentioned, end of the day, it's important to stay consistent. And just to give you an example of how we did it last year, as the lockdown hit us, and you did touch upon it earlier, Vineet, we realized the entire country was dependent on telecom services, and to be able to work from home, study, get people to get their entertainment content, OTT content was the only form of entertainment which people were getting, and there was a lot of reliance therefore on our networks. We saw this as an opportunity to create credibility and goodwill for our brand and for our industry as a whole. And again, touching upon talking about the heroics of our network warriors, because end of the day, much like all the other frontline workers, they were out there on the streets, setting up something on the tower to make sure that all of us is are connected. So I think pulling out those stories, creating narratives around them, and putting them out, I think is something which we did. And that also kind of motivated our own internal employees, who talk about network people, talk about customer service people, or call centers actually went to individual people's houses. They were taking calls from customers from their homes. They needed to be motivated, they needed to be aligned with the overall messaging. All the standard responses that had to be given out were created, drafted for them. And I think all that is something that we did the biggest brand launch during the pandemic. And that was a time when many were talking about pressures on the sector, stress in the sector, on the company. But again, it gave us an opportunity to script a new narrative and to start afresh. And I think with all this, it has helped create positive perception for the brand. And again, predominantly using the digital platforms and media, I think that has really, really worked for us. Again, for us, because we call ourselves as a digital first brand. And I think also what we realize is that it is very, very important to stick to your narrative and not get digressed or get swayed by what gets thrown at you. I think that's something very, very important, which I would recommend every PR professional practice. And let me give you an example. Often, I'll have my team members, my PR agencies come to me and say, "Oh, there's this story that's happening. Why don't we participate? Can we give a quote? Share some information?" And I often cross question them, and I often ask them, and I realize that that was just to create visibility for you as a brand, and I empathize with them because they're feeling for the brand. But end of the day, what I tell them is that it's not so important to be visible everywhere. I think it's what is important is to be visible at the right platform with the give the right message and for the right audience. I think that is very, very important. And I think last but not the least, to be empathetic in these times with all our stakeholders, with internal, with external, because end of the day, each and every one of us around us, we know either was impacted directly himself or herself, or had a loved one, near or dear one, who was down. And we were all working remotely. If I were to just give a call, I couldn't just start talking business. I had to first understand what the person's situation was. And if you didn't hear back from somebody for a day, you would often wonder. So I think you would just drop a WhatsApp message to check if everything was okay. I think the kind of exchanges of messages that we've seen in the last few last 1 year or so, I think we realize that everybody, I think each one of us has empathized. And I think as a brand also, we've done that. As an organization, we've done that, and that has helped. So I think, yeah, these are the things which we've done to manage and ease the pressure.
Co-creation earlier, and you spoke about industry and industry partnership, that how you really worked around
Yeah.
it. And I think that's where you become a large player in a larger format. And I think that's very interesting. Empathy, yes, empathy works every time, whether you are in a crisis or you're not in a crisis. Empathy is something which sort of is a must do as a communicator. Vergis, what a broad spectrum of of audiences you have, right from factory workers to the fleet of you have the third party, you have internal, you have external, government, and the plethora of things around. What was your winning? What was your last 18 months? How did you manage to communicate effectively with all these people, all your stakeholders? Vergis, you're on mute. Vergis, you're on mute.
Sorry, Vinit, can you
Yeah,
hear me now?
sure.
Yeah. I think it was indeed the toughest time for all of us here as a team, not only for the communication team, but I think for the entire organization, right? We were dealing with white collar employees, we were dealing with the blue collar employees. I think we achieved this by being honest in our communication, by providing information was that was needed for our employees, dealers, partners, and customers during this time. I think for us, employee communication became a single point focus, and that was something we had never thought about in the past. More than ever before, I think timely information became critical to navigate this ever changing environment. If we can provide things on time, half the battle, I think, has been won. Actually, Vinith, when we send out a piece of content or communication, we started asking ourselves, is our communication providing the right answers? Is it eliminating doubt? Is it usable? Whether it is trustworthy? And is it showing a better way forward? As you rightly said, Vinny, these are tough times, and these are tough times for all of us. Therefore, as a PR team, I think there are four things that are critical in such times. First, Shivanjali mentioned it too. I think bringing a massive dose of empathy to a communication approach is critical. The goal should be to craft communication that is simple and resonates with our stakeholders. Second, I think we have to be proactive. We should try and predict what a worker, his family, a dealer, or a customer may need and preempt their query by providing communication in advance. I think the other critical point is using various channels of communication, right? We have a factory in Hoso, we have a factory in Mysore, we have a factory in Indonesia and Himachal, right? There are different languages that people speak. So the channels of communication and the tools that we're using were critical. May it be mobile, digital, social, whatever the target audience is comfortable with, we have to start interacting with them in that uh, by using the same tool. Last but not the least, I think we have to be more engaging. I'll give you an example. In TVS, we created a variety of programs to drive engagement, employee engagement, dealer engagement, and to a large extent, we also tried doing customer engagement. And surprisingly, many of these were created by the employees and customers themselves. So these are some of the things that we did differently to ensure that the morale of the team was pretty high during these tough times. Vinit.
Interesting. So you spoke about timing. I think that's perfect.
That's
Timing
critical.
can only be possible if you have the right tools to communicate. Otherwise, you can't. And especially from Mysore to Himachal to Indonesia. So I think that's something which is like a huge range across countries. Very interesting insights. The most important what you spoke about is the communication for people by people, and I think that's something which is different right now what I'm hearing, which makes it more relevant, which makes it more probably trustworthy, as you really talked about. So we actually are, we have done 42 minutes already. We have say 4 or 5 minutes before we close the panel and open for question answer, and I really want a sort of a rapid fire kind of a thing. uh, how the and I'm sure you all can answer this. So I have two questions. One is how the role of a CCO has changed, say in last a year or so. So that's my first question to all the panelists. Nandini, you want to go ahead with that?
Sure,
Then I
sure.
go to Nareshi, Shimanjali, and Burgess. Yeah,
So I think
but quick.
Vinny, the role was evolving, it was changing like all roles do with time. What has happened now is that with this pandemic, there has been a compression of change. You know, the pace of change has become very fast. And what it required the CCOs to do was how to respond with agility on adapting to that change. You know, so a lot of those adaptations are what where the role has changed. You know, to give you an example, digital, for example, the plans that we had suddenly got accelerated. So whether it was increasing resources, the investments were there, you know, upskilling the people on that, to the extent that even raising awareness within project teams, within business, on what you can get out of digital, because now no more do you have the on ground things, no more you have the traditional things that they were used to. So there was so much that the entire team had to get together, even the fungibility bit, which I talked about earlier, where various people now came in to handle this particular change. You know, so like this, the number of things where the compression of change happened, which the CCO had to adjust. I mean, I could go on talking about the other things, but I think I'll leave it to others to add on. You said you just had 4 minutes.
So, Vinay, I think
Yeah.
CEOs have grown conscious about the communications and have started to look into the structure of communications from a within, giving the right of engaging with internal stakeholder in new ways. This is one.
Great. Shivanji, what do you think about it? Shivanji, you're on mute.
So I think we need, from my point of view, three or four areas where we've seen, a lot of focus now for communications, leaders. One, internal communications, I think, which everybody will agree, because everybody has realized that it's very important to keep your employees engaged and motivated, and your external partners as well, as we are in remote working conditions. I think second area is the social responsibility space. I think everybody has chipped in to support citizens and communities, and I think CSR is now a major focus area for everybody, for building credibility, as a good corporate citizen for the organizations we represent. I think another area is new ways of content development, with so many more digital platforms coming in. I think that's one area where all of us are exploring, are looking at doing things differently. What more can we do? I think that's the third one. And I think fourth, which I can tell you I have done quite a bit, and I think that's a lot of focus area for me personally, is that we've almost become like mythbuster. And especially in these times when there was an information overload on social media, on your OTT messaging apps, the menace of fake news, which has been growing all around us, it has become extremely important to watch for such trends, and the virality factor that it has. And I think it's important to therefore act promptly, and therefore also to be able to stem any issue that may arise out of those situations. So again, a big focus area for us, and that's how
Always,
we are working.
always being on toes. Always being on toes. Yeah. Verghese, how do you see the role of CCO has changed over the last 12 months? You're on mute, Verghese.
Vineet, I'll just take 60 seconds to elaborate this. I think the pandemic has made the role of CCO a crucial one. There's no two doubts about that. The pandemic was a black swan event which upturned the entire world of businesses, right? The situation required professionals like us to bring experience, intuition, gut feel into play. There were very few rules to go by. We had never ever seen the situation, right? So it became a right time to rewrite many of the old PR practices that had become outdated. Therefore, so today I think organizations are recognizing the fact that PR can go much beyond just brand building, reputation management, and crisis communication. And I also think the accessibility to the PR team has also increased during the last 12 to 18 months. Thanks to the employees, partners, and customers taking to digital media, geography doesn't matter anymore. Actually, this is good news, although it increases the burden on the CCO and the entire PR team. The second point I want to mention, and Nandini touched about this point too, CCOs have also discovered the power of digital. And that's an important point. They now need to think harder on how to create virtual events where everyone can participate and stay safe. I'll give you an example. Last year in April, TVS acquired a company in UK called Norton Motorcycles, and we did a global launch sitting inside this room. All of us were working from home. And I think the coverage that we generated was just phenomenal. But the point I'm trying to say is, while the goals of the CCO remain the same, the operational and tactical processes have to be relearned. That's my 2 cents on this, Vinith.
Perfect. So the old things coming back, relationship page, and keep trying. That's what I believe Verghese is talking about. I have one last question. Since things are opening up slightly, or in some places more than slightly, is 2020 gonna be equal to 2019, or 2020 gonna be 2020 itself? What do you think about?
Is that a
Nandini,
question?
yeah, please go ahead, Verghese, please.
Okay. I think, Vinith, personally, I think there is no going back. We long to go back because there is comfort in the familiar, but in reality, this pandemic has completely changed us forever. And those who resist going back to office or to familiar pre-pandemic processes, will move forward faster than those who actually go back. That's my take on it. On the other hand, the realities, such as those faced by many organizations like TVS that depend on factory work, is that people will still have to go to work, right? I remember this quote from McKinsey, if I may read this. The potential for remote work is highly concentrated among highly skilled, highly educated workers in a handful of industries, occupations, and geographies. So we obviously don't have the luxury in the factory. Therefore, the hybrid work model is going to be a reality, Vinith, and it is here to stay. Frankly, I think it is already a reality. That's my point of that.
So
Yep,
I'll just add to
Nandini.
that. I I think the pandemic taught us a lot of things. It showed us what all we can do when pushed. Showed us new ways of doing things, of making things possible. I think we need to embrace it. We need to learn from it, take out the best from it, and see what we did well, what we didn't do well, and how we went around it, and then move on. I think that is the way to go. I don't think, why waste a crisis, as the famous saying is. So that is over there. Let's take out the best and move forward.
Perfect. Pick up best from 2019 and move to 2022. Perfect. Yeah, Shivanjali, what do you think?
No, I think I'll agree with both my co-panelists. I think there's some things certainly we will go back to. We will go back to meeting people again. I think all that will happen. We've seen with restaurants and malls and cinemas opening. Everybody is back because human beings are a species which is very socially active. All that will happen, but I think the age old ways of working certainly has changed and nobody is going to go back. I think everything has got replaced with faster processes. We have got used to of being more agile, more efficient, or that has helped in decision making, and we've all become more productive. I think that's going to continue and would be the new way of working, I think, going forward.
Nareshji.
Uh, Vinay, well, I agreed with my all panelist fellows. I believe that things can never go back to their original form in any respect, any aspect of life. There are additions, modifications, and improvements that happen during the course of time. In 2022, the way we engage with each other would have changed. The onslaught of video conferencing channels indicates that they are here to stay for a longer duration of time. With the reduced opportunity to spend times together in persons comes new challenges to remain socially connected. The pandemic has changed people's use of digital communication methods. Companies will look forward to adopting remote working cultures, given the various resources friendly positives that we can draw from it. I can give my small example of my organizations. Being a public sector government of India speaking, we have adopted a digital power grid. Our files have become a paperless as we have a shifted to e-office. A digitally driven office space will be the future. Five factors play an outsized role of business transformations. First, to change attitude and aptitude of leaders in adapting digital mindset, and second, to rigid operations and becomes outperformers. Third, early and seamless adoption of digital ecosystems. Fourth, define the pace of futures. And fifth,
Wow.
not least, fifth, to move functions to platforms.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. So 2022 is gonna be 2022. A lot of learning from 19, 20, and 21, and we really hope we all strive. We again meet on this panel, and part of this list. Quick closing remarks from all of you. I start with Nareshji. You want to add uh, anything which all the audience would love to? Your three keywords, two keywords.
Thank you, Vineet. It is a really wonderful interaction with all of my senior and distinguished panelists. My last take points is during the pandemic, PSUs played a services role by ensuring the essential services. Almost all of them resume work from office. Large amount of money has been provided for CSR spends in fight against the virus. Branding efforts have resulted in maintaining a positive brand equity and market sentiments. This can be sustained only if the corporate communication team reinvigorate and work upon their communications. According to me, the best corporate communication team should invest in themselves and get up to date with trends, best practices, and knowledge about their target audience. Messaging is the key. Feedback will
Perfect.
help complete the loop. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Naresh, for your insights. Nandini, what do you think?
So I think the fact that all of us over here are among the top teams, we've done well. The fact I would believe is that despite the pandemic, we all responded with agility and we found resolution outside the usual. So I think that itself speaks a lot for the teams that we all are leading. I think they've all done a great job, and if we can just support the teams, align ourselves to business, embrace the change, and just look forward, that itself is
Perfect.
great.
Perfect. Thanks, Shivanjali. Quickly, we have just 5 minutes left. I really want to have some audience question as well, please.
So yeah, I think all has been said, Vineet. I think very important, as Nandini also mentioned, to align yourself to the business goals and objectives. I think that's very important and is at the core of how we function, what we do. I think in today's times and pressured times, and working remotely, I think it helps to just pick up the phone and talk to a friend, a colleague. I think that helps in relieving pressure. I do that with my teams. I think that's very important for us as communicators to keep our teams motivated and keep our teams energized. And I think
Perfect. Thank you.
that's what
Great.
we do.
Varghese.
Okay. Communication will only continue to become more relevant and significant as time goes on, Vinith. I think giving a clear objective from the outset to your teams so that they can pursue with direction purpose would be critical. Teams also depend on the personalities of the members as well as the leadership style of the managers. However, the ingredient for what makes a successful team, I think, remains the same across the board, right? I think having mutual respect, a couple of my fellow panelists spoke about it, common and aligned goals, keep relearning. That's critical. Open communication within and outside the team. And I think patience is going to be extremely important. And if you have all of this, this can really make for a successful team.
Perfect. Patience. Amazing.
A lot of that.
Patience, persuasion, the core of PR. I think that's what we all have learned over the years. So, quick 3 or 4 questions. First question is from Kritika Khatwani for Nandini. What do top corporate com teams that work with PR firms do differently to help the consultancy partners excel? Very interesting question.
So I'm just wondering whether we do anything differently. Because if I look at the PR partners or my digital agency, the very word that they're partners, so they are helping us listen to what is happening in the environment. So whether it's conversations, whether it is searches, what are people looking for, what are the topics, and what they have is that they are servicing so many clients, so they have all that knowledge which they bring to the table, and we are able to use that knowledge, those insights, those inputs that they bring, and align it with the strategic goals of business and take it forward. But I would like to believe that this is what all teams are doing, so I really can't say it is anything different. This is the role of a PR agency, working in partnership with a comms team.
Yeah. So using their strengths to take your key messages out or to your business, achieve your business goals. Interesting. The second question goes to Verghese. This is by Miss Neha Goyal. Verghese, which is your most favorite global Copcom team?
That's a tough
Apart
one.
from your own. Apart from your own.
I
I
agree.
would say Cisco and BlackBerry, I guess, because I've spent a long time with these two organizations. And the reason is Cisco gave me the opportunity to think freely and be local, right? It was important to think locally and do things which were relevant to the local market. In spite of being a B2B organization, I think the communication team was right in the center of all the action. It was not a marketing led organization. I think it was equally driven by the communication team. Second, I think for BlackBerry, phenomenal company, great culture. We did go through a lot of highs and lows there, but I think the experience was immense, especially on managing crisis. We went through innumerable number of crises in BlackBerry. I
Yeah.
must also mention that the person who was heading the communication organization is someone I still respect a lot. So there was a lot of learning coming from that organization. But having said that, Vinny, there are quite a few organizations in India too who are doing an amazing job. Thanks.
I agree. And all at least 30 out of them are part of this list.
Exactly.
So congratulations. My next question, Verghese spoke briefly about the crisis. My question to Shivanjali, this question is from Mr. Anurag Verma. And how do Copcom teams deal with crisis situation and remain positive? Shivanjali, you have had great experience about it. Please share some insights.
So I think, Vineet, for me, the age-old mantra to say that, when you have a big problem in front of you, I think you need to break it into pieces, and then try finding solution to one at a time. I think that helps in breaking down a big problem into smaller pieces, and then addressing them one by one. It gives you, you can create your short term goals. You can create your, you can think about how do you address the immediate issue, and then the next issue. I think that's how I work. Even therefore, if you have a big problem, it doesn't cow you down. Secondly, I think, as I mentioned earlier, it always helps to have someone you can just pick up the phone. It helps to be transparent with your teams. That's the way I operate. In fact, I always encourage my team members to have open conversations with me, with our senior management and amongst themselves. That's the organization culture that I represent, so that there's no doubt in anyone's mind. And I think, as leaders, it's our responsibility, end of the day, to absorb a lot of pressure and not let that pass on to the teams. And I think, that therefore helps having fun, in meetings, cracking jokes. I think all that is something which each one of us practices to just release some pressure on the teams. But I think, generally I've seen PR and Copcom, professionals really performing much better than anybody else in pressure. So I don't see that as an issue for anybody who would be part of this session today.
Completely agree with you.
Interesting. Amazing, amazing thought. Uh, when there is a crisis or when there is a dark all around, a smallest light can give you a path. And I think
Yes.
that's what you really spoke about. And the second thing which you spoke about is idea is nobody's baby, nobody's copyright. You talk to people, even the smallest person in the organization can give you an idea which can help you in crisis. I think great insight, Shivanjali. My next question and the last question for today's panel, and then I'll invite Anubhuti back for a thank you note. This is for Naresh ji from Miss Nidhi Verma. What does it take to be able to join the Copcom team of a PSU? And Nidhi, please listen to it carefully. Probably there is an insight for you.
Uh, I'm audible, Vinay.
Yeah. Please go ahead, Naresh ji.
We look for a full package. Individuals, especially technology savvy, creative thinkers, content creators, having an understanding of the social ecosystem and who's able to deliver on all fronts, has an optimistic attitude and is eager to learn and invest in himself or herself and utilize the new emerging communication tools. that is the small package we need and we explore for our communicators.
This is the complete package in itself. Optimism, definitely. A PR person or a Copcom person without optimism is not going to work in our industry, I think. And with this, a big thank you to all of you, Naresh ji, Shivanjali, Nandini, and Varghese. It was a very, very interesting chat. For last 1 hour and 55 minutes, sorry, 65 minutes now. Anubhuti, may I invite you back for a thank you note?
Thank you, Vineet, and thank you everyone for this fabulous discussion. I'm sure all of our listeners are going away with a lot of learnings and tons of inspiration from great leaders like all of you. I would like to thank our panelists once again, Nandini, Naresh, Shivanjali, and Varghese for your time and your insights today. Thank you to all our attendees for taking the time out this evening. I would also like to thank our partner Kaizen for supporting this special edition. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at RepTodayMac to stay updated with our upcoming events. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thanks, Reputation Today. Thank you. Bye bye. See ya. Take care, guys.